recorder very well. Umenisikia? And that is what is bringing the cases of unprofessional conduct among journalists and media workers. Because it's only in radio stations where you get journalists working without contracts. It is only in radio stations where you get journalists working for months and months without pay. It is only in radio stations where journalists report there in the morning from Monday to Sunday. No off days, no leave. Bwana CEO and the rest who are here, I believe we can do better. We can celebrate the expansion and the growth of radio, but again we must condemn violation of labor rights of journalists and media workers who are working in these radio stations. I believe if we do that, we will improve. Otherwise, in another decade, we will be celebrating or complaining. So we'll rather choose to celebrate than complain. Because if we do not protect professionals to work in these radio stations, sometimes in the coming months, we'll be regretting and not celebrating because people have got bills to pay. Should I rather go and work in a radio station and stay for 6 months, 1 year without pay, or I get something else to do? Your guess is as good as mine. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, we need platforms for us to have these conversations. And together with Media Council of Kenya, Kenya Editors Guild, Association of Media Women in Kenya, and other interested parties, we are convening the biggest Pan-African Media Summit in Kenya in May. I want to invite you, partners, journalists, to come together so that we can create a platform for us to discuss this. I've seen we have got academia in the room. Dr. Wheeler, we want you guys to come there with papers facing in Kenya so that we can have that continental discussions and have these discussions also that can help our colleagues in other countries. Viva Africa! Viva Africa! Are we ready to invite the whole Africa to Kenya so that we can have this conversation? Viva Africa! Viva Africa! Asanteni sana.
In trade unionism, they are called comrades, see? Comrade power. So, asante sana Bwana SG. Quickly, Fatma from Internews. Fatma, before joining Internews, worked in radio for quite years, and when we saw you, we couldn't miss your voice. So, karibu sana Fatma.
Asante sana Victor. Good morning, everyone. Good morning once again. Mimi ni mfupi. Let me try this. Can I use both or one? So, it's heavy. So, good morning once again. My name is Fatma Sanbur. I'm the Regional Program Manager for Internews, supporting our programming in Africa. I'm privileged to be standing in front of you today. Apologies for being late. And I'm really happy this day because it's World Radio Day. Who won't be happy? I've been asked to give a few remarks about this day. But I didn't have a prepared speech, so I'm just going to give a quick background about what we do at Internews, but I'm also going to give a brief background of why this day is also important to me as a person. Internews is a media development organization, and we do support media in terms of business. We do also advocate for media freedom, freedom of expression, among other things. We work in over 20 countries globally, and we've been in existence for over 40 years. In Kenya, we've worked since 2003, and a number of you have been either involved in our trainings, worked with us, trained with us in one way or the other. So I'm sure Internews is not a new organization to most of you. World Radio Day is really an important day for all of us, and I would like to take this time to wish everyone a happy World Radio Day. Internews has been a key advocate for, empowering community radio stations globally. And in Africa, it's defined our work in most of the complex countries we've worked in, like Ethiopia, Zambia, Central African Republic. We've worked with a number of partners, and our key partners have always been radio. For example, in Zambia 5 years ago, when we were going in, the first entry point was for us to identify 19 community radio stations that we worked with for a span of 4 years before the fundings were cut last year. And in that particular programming, we were not only going to train journalists on how to produce content, but we were also looking at how to build the hardware and software for community radio stations. The reason why you focus on community radio stations is that most of the time they are always forgotten when it comes to development. We do go in, we support associations, we support, CSOs, but community radio stations usually come as a second thought. But at Internews, we do go in to support community radio stations first, because we know they play a key role in our communities, which is the most important bit of it. For me, radio has defined my career, and as most of you know here, we've talked, we've had side chats about why radio has defined most of our, journalism careers. I started as a friend of mine there was reminding me when I was a tiny girl, doing press conferences, volunteering at a community radio station in Kibra, and becoming an editor, and now becoming one of the senior people at Internews in Africa. I'm really privileged to have been brought up in a radio space. My role models back then were Kina Mariam Omar at BBC Swahili. Diraya BBC was my most go-to program to listen to, and I would always imitate how Mariam used to present the news. And I'm happy to see Nasra, because we were the first people to develop a community radio station in Dadaab. And the community radio station in Dadaab, actually when we were starting back then, we used to rely on Star FM, which was the only Somali radio station to broadcast content to the refugees in Dadaab. And how we used to do it, I used to live in a UN camp. So we would train a number of refugee journalists, and they will produce content. Then we will edit the content, put it in a USB hard drive, and then go to the mast where Nasra's Star FM had a mast, and we will switch off the national frequency and put in the CD drive, and that will produce content to Dadaab. So now I'm happy whenever I'm on Facebook and see Gargar FM, that is the name of the radio station, now broadcasting on Facebook, being able to have their own content, producing a number of content, having sponsors like the UN, the UNHCR, and so on. So I'm super happy whenever we celebrate World Radio Day, not only for myself, but for people that we've interacted with, we've benefited in one way or the other, and Viva Radio, and I know we will continue doing that. The theme for today is World Radio, or Radio and Artificial Intelligence. I had Bwana CEO and the head of broadcast at NMG talk today at Fixing the Nation. It's one of my favorite morning shows. And I could hear the voice that even though AI is there, but the identity of radio won't be lost. We might repackage how we distribute content, but we will never lose radio. So on this day, thank you so much for giving me the platform to speak, and happy World Radio Day to all of you on behalf of myself and on behalf of Internews. Thank you.
Asante sana. I'm sure Bwana CEO, when you come later, you must, I request you also talk about your days in radio. CEO helped start up more than 23 radio stations, actually. Back then, I'm sure he'll mention it. I want to invite the president of the Kenya Editors Guild, Madam Zubeida. Tayari ako kesho, so mumuelewe. Mumuelewe, tayari ako kesho. Karibu sana.
Oh my goodness, Asante Victor, thank you very much. Happy Valentine's Day to all of us. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, help me celebrate SG on his re-election as the Secretary General of KUJ. Pongezi sana, ama tumwambie viva na. Asante sana. I also used to, other than being an anchor, I used to read news on Radio Maisha. sijui kama kuna wengine wenu mulifuatilia. So I understand why we need to celebrate this day. And it reminds me of our tour to China the last 2 years, where we visited one area, mahali tulipata wako na AI-powered radio. And with this background, ilinipea wasiwasi kidogo, because it's a station, an AI-powered station that had more than 1,000 frequencies, where you don't need like a whole team to operate. You just press a button and you're live on air. So nilikuwa najiuliza, where are we headed to? Should we be worried? You know? So Temesi Mukani, Information Secretary, Ministry of ICT, Maina Mwiruri, Chairman MCK, David Omoyo, CEO MCK, Dr. James Gishihi Njogu, Acting Secretary General NATCOM, Nora Mbagathi, ED Katiba Institute, yes, yeah. My sister Tabitha, media industry leaders, colleagues in the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, happy World Radio Day. Yes, and I'm happy to see the energy in the room. You all look amazing. You know, I wish you could stand here and look at the room and see how amazing you look. As we mark World Radio Day 2026, we gather at a defining moment for broadcasting in Kenya. This year's theme, Radio and Artificial Intelligence, is not abstract, it's immediate. It's already reshaping our newsrooms, our studios, and our professional conversations. For decades, radio has been Kenya's most accessible and most trusted medium. It reaches where fiber optic cables do not. It speaks where literacy is not guaranteed. It informs where internet connectivity is unreliable. From Turkana to Kisumu, from Kilifi to Nairobi, radio remains the heartbeat of Kenyan public discourse. It informs, it educates, it mobilizes, and in times of crisis, it stabilizes. Its strength has always been its simplicity. Umesikia hata SG amesema about hizo batteries ulikuwa unaweka kwa jua zina una charge na jua. No expensive devices, no data bundles, just a battery powered set and a human voice. That trust is its currency. Today, that trusted heartbeat is intersecting with artificial intelligence. Across Kenya, media houses are already using AI tools to transcribe interviews, summarize reports, translate bulletins, and digitize archives. In a country with more than 60 languages, the possibilities are significant. AI could help expand multilingual broadcasting, improve efficiency, and preserve our rich audio history, and SG has spoken to this. During a recent visit to China, I walked through a museum that traced the evolution of photography and videography, from early cameras to today's AI-powered storytelling tools. What struck me was not the sophistication of the technology, but its purpose. AI was being used to restore historical footage, preserve cultural memory, and make heritage accessible to younger generations. And I hope and pray that we'll get there someday. In that moment, I was reminded, technology is not inherently disruptive. It can also be preservative. The question is not whether AI will enter our media spaces. It already has. The question is whether we will use it to dilute our humanity or deepen it. Because alongside promise comes responsibility. Public trust is radio's greatest asset. During elections and national emergencies, Kenyans turn to radio not only for information, but for reassurance. Synthetic audio and voice cloning technologies are advancing rapidly. If a listener begins to question whether the voice they hear is authentic or artificially generated, credibility can erode very quickly. So radio's enduring power lies in the human voice, in tone, humor, empathy, and lived experience. Algorithms can replicate sound, but they cannot replicate accountability. They cannot replicate editorial judgment. They cannot replicate human responsibility. We must therefore be clear. AI must assist journalists, not replace them. It must enhance editorial capacity, not erode it. At the same time, we must address the real concerns within the industry. Kenya's radio sector supports thousands of professionals. Community radio stations in particular operate on modest budgets while serving underserved populations. If AI adoption is uneven or unregulated, we risk widening gaps rather than closing them. That is why this conversation must move beyond technology and into policy. Kenya needs a deliberate and balanced AI and media framework. We need clear disclosure standards where content is AI generated. We need regulatory clarity between oversight institutions. We need newsroom advisory structures to guide ethical integration. The objective is not to resist innovation. It is to shape it in the public interest. Radio is not dying, it's evolving. The danger is not artificial intelligence itself. The danger is unregulated artificial intelligence. If guided wisely, AI can strengthen multilingual broadcasting, improve efficiency, and expand inclusion while preserving the human core of journalism. AI is a tool, not a voice. Technology must remain a tool. The voice must remain human. As radio becomes more intelligent, our responsibility is to ensure it does not lose its humanity. Thank you very much for your attention and enjoy the day.
And thanks, President. President French, eh? Yeah, so don't think that I'm mistaking the name. Now we move to Winket. Our partner from Kenya National Commission on UNESCO, he has been sent by Dr. Njogu to represent because of something that came up in the office. So Winket works at the Kenya National Commission on UNESCO, NATCOM, who are part of the sponsors of this event. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. They should make this for short people. Niko sawa, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy World Radio Day. As the chair Akmo was talking about community radio, all I could think about is how while growing up, every morning my grandmother would wake up to make tea, and the first thing she would listen to was community radio, which is Kameme FM. I know most of you might be familiar with Kameme, and it just made me realize how important radio was then and how it still is today. So my name is Mukami Winkate. I'm representing the Acting Secretary General of the Kenya National Commission for UNESCO. Allow me to ride on the protocols already observed. Ladies and gentlemen, radio remains the most accessible, affordable, and far-reaching medium of communication in Kenya. It reaches communities across the country, connecting people, promoting dialogue, advancing democratic values, and amplifying voices that are often unheard. For millions of Kenyans, radio continues to be the most trusted source of information and a vital platform for civic participation. Radio empowers citizens through timely and reliable information, supports advocacy on social development issues, and plays a central role in political socialization by enabling informed civic participation. Through the call-in programs and interactive platforms, radio fosters dialogue, accountability, and inclusion, allowing citizens to question, contribute, and actively engage in national discourse. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's World Radio Day challenges us not only to celebrate radio, but to reflect critically on how innovation will shape trust, democracy, and social cohesion in the years ahead. The theme, Radio and AI, speaks directly to the era we are in. AI is increasingly shaping how radio content is produced, distributed, and consumed. AI offers opportunities to enhance efficiency, expand reach, and improve audience engagement. Used responsibly, these tools can strengthen radio's ability to serve the public interest. At the same time, the use of AI in broadcasting presents serious ethical, legal, and social considerations. These include concerns around data protection and privacy, information disorder, and unequal access to digital tools. If not carefully governed, these risks can erode public trust and undermine the credibility of radio as a public interest medium. Ladies and gentlemen, these concerns are particularly urgent in Kenya as we prepare for the general elections in 2027. We all know that election periods are often marked by heightened political competition, polarization, and the rapid circulation of false or misleading information. In this context, radio plays a critical role in promoting peaceful coexistence, providing accurate and verified information, facilitating inclusive dialogue, and enabling citizens to participate meaningfully in democratic processes. How AI is used in radio during the forthcoming elections will either strengthen public trust or irreversibly undermine it. While AI can support broadcasters through content verification, real-time monitoring, and translation of election information into local languages, it can also be misused to amplify disinformation and generate deceptive content. This reality demands strong editorial oversight and a clear commitment to human judgment and accountability. Ladies and gentlemen, UNESCO's normative frameworks, including the recommendation on the ethics of AI, emphasize that technological innovation must respect human rights, promote transparency, and remain accountable to the public. In the media sector, this means ensuring that AI systems do not replace editorial responsibility, undermine professional standards, or marginalize vulnerable communities. Instead, AI should be used as a tool that supports journalists, strengthens information integrity, and reinforces public trust, particularly during sensitive periods such as elections. Kenya's AI Readiness Assessment Methodology report further underscores these concerns. The assessment, which was undertaken in 2024, highlights the ethical risks associated with AI-generated content, including misinformation, algorithmic bias, and the potential erosion of public trust if safeguards are not in place. As we commemorate World Radio Day, the findings of the Readiness Assessment Methodology report serves as a timely call to action. AI is a tool, it's not a voice, and it is not a substitute for editorial judgment. Every AI-generated script, summary, or translation must remain subject to human verification. Human oversight is not optional, it is essential to protecting truth, accuracy, and the public trust, especially during sensitive periods such as elections. Ladies and gentlemen, community radio is especially important in this regard. Its participatory and people-centered nature positions it as a trusted platform at the grassroots level, fostering social cohesion, community identity, and a sense of belonging. By reflecting local realities and priorities, community radio contributes to dialogue, conflict prevention, and peace-building roles that are indispensable during election cycles. Ladies and gentlemen, as NATCOM, we will continue to collaborate with partners to strengthen radio and uphold ethical media practices in Kenya. This includes building capacity of journalists and broadcasters, supporting multilingual and inclusive programming, and advancing initiatives that promote media and information literacy. Kevin over here from ACMO can ascertain that indeed we've been working with community radio professionals in the country and building their capacity, and we shall continue to do so and engage even other partners such as Internews and the Media Council of Kenya in doing so. At the same time, this moment calls on broadcasters, regulators, technology providers, policymakers, and development partners to work together, not in silos, to ensure that AI serves the public interest and strengthens democratic participation. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, let us embrace innovation responsibly. Let AI empower broadcasters, support credible and ethical journalism, and enhance audience engagement. Above all, let it strengthen the trust that has sustained radio as a cornerstone of public communication. Thank you all, and I wish you a happy World Radio Day, and of course, a happy Valentine's tomorrow.
Asante. As you are aware, those who have worked in protocol, keynote speeches are normally 3 people, but we must be accommodative sometimes. And I can see the information secretary wondering, these guys have turned this into a panel discussion. But sometimes we must be inclusive and take Madam Tabita, who has worked in government for many years as very senior management, but sometimes we accommodate a bit so that then, now that it's almost like a panel, I want to invite Christine from Katiba Institute, and Lynn, you are talking to us access to information and radio, so that then Bana Chairman, I not guide him because he knows he has even a presentation he's making on we are launching a document in a few minutes. In the expanded regulatory mandate for Media Council becomes very critical because some of the discussion we are doing is regulation and the expanded nature and regulated radio and regulated space, what happens. So karibu sana, Madam Pastor Christine Kuria.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we need to work on, yeah, no comment. I think I'll begin by saying, as the SG was talking, I think it also took me back. I remember my grandmother also was very attached to her radio. And every time she'd say that she needs her radio because she needs to listen to, she called it mustatari. We have to listen to mustatari. Mustatari wa habari. So she always wanted to, she was attached to her radio, and it took me back quite far. Happy World Radio Day. Allow me to begin by giving our executive director's apology. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it, Madam Nora Bagathi. She was not able to join us, but Katiba Institute is well represented. Further to that, allow me to write on the existing protocol and proceed on to the speech. So as we mark the World Radio Day 2026 under the theme Radio and Artificial Intelligence, Innovation that Empowers, Ethics that Inspire, Trust that Endures, we are not only celebrating our powerful medium of communication, but we are also reaffirming our constitutional promise. In Kenya, radio remains the most accessible and trusted source of information, reaching a large percentage of the population. For many rural, marginalized, and low-income communities, radio is their primary source of information, public participation, and even civic engagement. Our Constitution recognizes the centrality of information. Article 35 guarantees every person the right to access information. This right is foundational to democracy. It enables citizens to participate meaningfully in governance, to hold institutions accountable, and to make informed decisions about their lives. As artificial intelligence increasingly shapes how content is produced, distributed, and consumed in radio broadcasting, it is important to critically evaluate the impact of AI on the constitutional right on access to information. Artificial intelligence offers enormous potential for advancing access to information. It can enable real-time translation into local languages, making content more inclusive. It can enhance accessibility for people with disabilities through speech-to-text and text-to-speech tools. It can support fact-checking and the verification process, strengthening accuracy and timeliness. If properly governed, AI can significantly advance Article 35 by expanding reach, reducing linguistic barriers, and promoting civic education. These benefits are, however, accompanied by risks. Algorithmic bias may marginalize certain communities. Deepfake audio and synthetic voices can undermine trust in broadcasting. Opaque algorithmic systems may shape editorial decisions in ways that are not transparent to audiences. Data-driven audience analytics may infringe on privacy if not properly regulated. Access to information is not merely about availability, it is about reliability, credibility, inclusivity, and accountability. If AI systems compromise these principles, they risk eroding the very trust that makes radio so powerful in Kenya. Katiba Institute's mandate is to defend the Constitution and promote constitutionalism. Our work has included strategic litigation to enforce Article 35 and the Access to Information Act, advocacy for stronger compliance by public institutions, and engagement on digital rights and data protection. We have consistently maintained that constitutional rights do not diminish in digital spaces. Technology must align with constitutional values and innovation must serve the public interest. AI governance in media cannot be treated as a purely technical matter. It is a constitutional issue that goes to the heart of democratic participation. The partnership commemorating World Radio Day reflects a necessary multi-stakeholder approach. The Media Council of Kenya, our partners, provides regulatory, you can tell where I'm from, leadership and industry oversight. Internews strengthens innovation and journalistic capacity. UNESCO offers global standards on press freedom and ethical AI governance. And Katiba Institute ensures that constitutional safeguards, access to information principles, and accountability remain at the center of the conversation. Effective AI governance in media requires collaboration among regulators, civil society, technologies, policymakers, and broadcasters. As we move towards an AI-driven future, our commitment is to encourage radio to be rights-based. Algorithmic systems should be transparent. Compliance with access to information and data protection laws must be strengthened. Editorial accountability must remain visible, and ethical use of AI must be strengthened. Artificial intelligence should enhance access to information, not obscure its sources. It should strengthen democracy, not weaken trust. The World Radio Day 2026 reminds us that radio remains one of the most powerful democratic tools in Kenya. With thoughtful governance, AI can make it even stronger. At Katiba Institute, we believe that innovation must serve the people and uphold the Constitution. Technology must protect rights, and access to information must remain at the heart of Kenya's democracy. Thank you all, and once again, happy World Radio Day. Thank you.
Asante sana, Christine. When I said pastor, it's in quotes. He used to lead our prayer when we were working together at the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. So your pastor si ati ako na church. He's not competing for war. So I mean, with that, then I'm sure Bwana Temesi will mention something about the need to engage digital platforms, the issue of content theft and related, at what level, how do we compensate journalists with their work, the only work God has given them in content creation? Because a lot of these big techs just pick content here, they use it for money. So, and that level needs government intervention, discussions, dialogue with big techs, what has happened in South Africa, what has happened in Australia, Canada, to engage them to see how content can benefit journalists. At that note, I want then to invite the Chief Executive Officer, CEO of Media Council of Kenya, Bwana David Omoyo, MBS, to come and lead us in the next discussion. The events are going on in Mombasa, in Turkana, in Kisii, and Tharaka Nithi, where we have digital offices. There are other World Day events that are going on there. A number of our staff in our various radio stations engaging journalists. So, karibu sana Bwana Omoyo.
Thank you very much. I'm Jambo. The former version of me in radio was an intern, then a news reader, then a station manager, then a media owner establishing about 20 radio stations. So you would either find me in Italy kwa factory ya transmitters, ama Milimani from Mazeras in Mombasa, Nyambene Hills in Meru, wherever, supervising Chuma and all that. So in radio I've done a lot of this and that. One day, exactly 10 years ago in 2016, we were going up to Mazeras Hill to set up a radio transmitter for the Archdiocese of Mombasa. and a snake fell into our car. You know, because you're driving in the bushes going up, nakanyoka kakanguka tu, and then it disappeared. I was not given permission to tell you what happened next. It's a pleasure really that you join us to celebrate radio and artificial intelligence. But before that, I've told you the former version of me and the radio. The informal version of me and the radio is at home. Nakumbuka kuna stool ya radio na kitambaa ya kufunika radio namna hii. Na kitambaa ya kufunika radio namna hii. Na ukiguza radio ya mzee ulikuwa na gongo kidogo. It is KBC Swahili kidogo. At 4:45 PM inawekwa kikisiri kwa Kisumu, tunasikia matangazo ya vifo na matangazo maalum in vernacular. And 6:30, if your radio had shortwave, the neighbors congregate to listen to BBC and all that, and the neighbors would come, and that is the informal version of radio. Na kutumu ukaenda ukachukue kununua batteries, ilikuwa radio ama nyota ama kuanika kwa jua kama jua imekuja and all that. So radio has been, but even today if you reflect you realize that radio, we use it for different versions. Here in the city we use it to know for traffic updates, especially before Google Maps came, and we use it for marriage counseling, patanisha on one of the radio stations, isn't it? And then we use it for fantasy. Maina, the official women rep of Nairobi, Maina Kageni on Classic 105 and all that. And of course we have the Sandonas and the Roga that come for wazee like Nzao, Musao and others, isn't it? But eventually, well, he may not be mzee, but his hair looks gray unless ameguzana na chokaa. But eventually you realize that radio is very critical, isn't it? And in the village they listen to still matangazo maalum, isn't it? And they listen to weather updates and all that, isn't it? Na mahubiri, especially when you want to heal a few people. Unashika radio yako, unaponywa magonjwa fulani ambayo tutataja, isn't it? So radio still remains very important and all that. The beauty, the one unique feature of radio is the ability to consume radio while going on with your life. Every other media, you need to stop and concentrate. You need to stop and scroll your phone. You need to stop and watch TV or stop and read newspaper. Radio, si hata mnaona watu ya boda wako na radio namna hiyo, na the stereo inawaka. Na what else? What channel do the people of the boda listen to? Kwa matatu za Nairobi ni Classic 105. The people listen to the official women rep. But kwa watu wa boda tunasikiza Gidi na Ghost. Na betting. So really radio is an integral part of life. But when you reflect about artificial intelligence is really advanced intelligence. Really just that ability that you have used technology to make delivery easier and all that. So artificial intelligence, for example, it schedules announcements. It alerts you that we have now this, we have an advert that is due now. And of course it shows you, if you are doing your normal show here, it alerts you that now we have breaking news. Do you want to alert your listeners and all that? So that integration of AI is what we celebrate. But still that radio remains, and I would say that radio still remains king. We will see in the report now that in Kenya we have about 250 radio stations. When we grew up tulikuwa na kama 9 hivi. And it was very easy to listen because we had 2 radios. Kama umesoma kidogo alikuwa nasikiza KBC General Service, US for the asking and a bit of reggae. And those days Tabitha Mutemi was a producer on radio and doing a bit of stuff. And nowadays there is so much, you need to find really what to listen to. If you want counseling, if you want healing, if you want love advice, if you want family reconciliation, there is always a bouquet of all that. It's beautiful that all that is available. Now it's about what technology facilitates us to do and the ethics thereof, so that you don't use now the ethics to clone people's voices without either attribution or to use it wrong, or you don't use that AI to perpetuate misinformation and disinformation. So pamoja na kwamba And actually, you'll notice that initially when we had all universities had a newspaper, isn't it? Nowadays they have a radio station. What were they start? Aga Khan hamuna radio, because Aga Khan, they are posh, they teach management and digital and all that. Daystar, who were trying to mold young journalists, they have a radio station and all that. So then you realize that radio is an integral part, and whatever happens, even as the new comes, the old doesn't go, the old just changes. What has changed is the mode of delivery. So kwetu sasa hakuna stool ya kuwekelea radio na kale kitambaa, but still there is a way my mom listens to radio, isn't it? Either on her phone akiwa kwa farm, or a channel on TV and all that. So as we celebrate this World Radio Day, I would like that we all celebrate the power of information and the gadgets. And you want to know that the reason why the World Radio Day was first commemorated by the UN in 1946 was the critical role radio had done during the Second World War, providing information for evacuations, weather forecasts, how to save people, where people would go for food and medication and all that. And radio still does that today. When we have cyclones or very big natural disasters in places, the first responders go in and they seek to set up a little radio station to communicate to people. So you may be posh in the city and thinking, oh, radio is not important because you have screens. But people rely on radio, and I wish that we spend the day celebrating radio and listen, dance to music on radio. It's actually very easy to dance to music on radio. Kudance muziki ya TV si rahisi, isn't it? The people who love rumba, you can dance to music on radio. You can't dance to music on TV, isn't it? For the young people, because all of us are either parents or future parents or grandparents, kuna watu si wazee, si vijana sana kama chairman, and wale wako na nywele nyeupe. Radio is good for the young people because it triggers the mind. Television, the screen zombifies the young people, but radio triggers that imagination. So radio is a good tool for bringing people up. Olo Janak, good to see you after a while. But as I start to present the report, because I need to break the monotony of speeches and present just a little research, a few slides for you to reflect about how monetization and digitization has caused confusion. Help me reflect as Madam President marks Valentine. You know, St. Valentine was a Catholic priest who used to do weddings, secret weddings during war, which had been overruled by the Roman Emperor, isn't it? And a lot of commitment to people who are weak, isn't it? What I'm trying to understand is how that was converted into a day where every man akona deni, you must pay something. How the transition from that noble thing to a day where some guys, we must pick some flowers and do some chocolate and wear a certain color. Anyway, we will have that during the tea break to discuss. Yes, can I go to the presentation right away? Yeah, please tell me, musinijibu saizi. And musifikilie sana. So we had a short report of navigating the digital reality, monetization, because we have a challenge of sustaining radio stations, isn't it? SG, I can see you are practicing to be a journalist, to be a politician by doing a lot of Viva. It is not only radio where people are not paid. Generally in the media sector, iko shida ya kulipo kidogo, isn't it? And because of, number one, of course, there are many. We had about 9 radios. We have 250, isn't it? Can the economy sustain that? But you notice that we have the collapse of the tradition. Those who don't know is that airtime in radio is measured in seconds. You will buy 15-second mentions 4 times in the morning, eventually 7 times a day. It is 1.8 million shillings per week. That's how we used to make it. It was very easy. We go on a radio, it was very easy. If you have good listenership, it's 15 seconds, 4 times for breakfast show, 7 days a week, times 3 weeks, 1.8 million, add VAT, and 1% discount. And you must pay in advance, isn't it? Then we call it a space order. Now that tradition has collapsed, all right? People want to place these adverts on Facebook and X and YouTube, isn't it? Because people have to access it quick here. And so what has happened is that we need to innovate, because the challenge we have, it's regulatory. Bwana Temesi, please tell Waziri when you see him that, is that this person putting an advert on Facebook, Facebook puts that advert after you have clicked to read an article done by a local radio or a local newspaper is after you read the article, then the advert is pegged on that, isn't it? But all this money goes to Washington, big tech, isn't it? Remember what brought you to the social media is an article done by a local journalist and media house. The advert has been hinged on it, and the money has gone, isn't it? Not you, the owners of the platform have done that. And so then, therefore, we have revenue, or rather the budget, the cake has not gotten smaller because the economy imeenda. Sasa mnaona budget ya serikali imefika trillion. Unajua tukipewa trillion tuhesabu tunaweza changanyikiwa sana. But the people are more now. Because now if you have your own TikTok account, you're given something, isn't it? I was checking my TikTok now. I go to TikTok to dance from time to time. But I make sure I do it fully dressed, so msijali hapo. Ongea pole pole. So I noticed that we have big tech. I have seen an advert from KCB and Safcom coming up on the TikToks, and they're hinged on certain people, isn't it? All this was revenue that went to newspaper, radio, and TV. Now it's being distributed across, isn't it? So the cake has not gotten smaller. The mouths are many. But now that technology has allowed people to count eyeballs, you know, initially you want to print gazeti peke yako, and the advert came. Now we do that. So that innovation of how to do that is important. And therefore, we look at where is the audience. Is the mobile first. You know this thing, how many people this thing has replaced, isn't it? The camera person, the person carrying the microphone, the person doing graphics design, isn't it? And all that. And if you have a seriously advanced phone, you know, you have seen even colleagues like Larry Madowo going live on CNN with iPhone and all that, isn't it? That alone has displaced the entire camera person. What do a picture msijali mfutu kazi? But these people have been displaced, isn't it? The guys, then you do the background, the guys who do the propping and all that, because technology has done that. So if you want to do anything, deliver it here. That's why radio, your simu na ninunulie iko na radio, is a very good question asked by people at home, isn't it? Na ikuwe na tochi, na ikuwe na calculator, na camera, na hata wamesema ikuwe na Bible. So nowadays you can swear by the Bible on your phone. Then you notice that, and if you look at it's 91%, it's all of them. 9 out of 10. Anything you want to do must go on phone. Then look at that social dominance. Facebook, we have said that now any radio you want has to do is streaming, isn't it? On all social media. With a bit of music, isn't it? And news websites, which is very low. Nika 13%. But social media, that means that it's a mode of delivery. You sit in your studio, deliver any content, but find a way of putting in a place that it will eventually find its way to the channels, isn't it? And ultimately, on the phone. So atununui radio. I saw Nzau akipigwa picha na ile radio. Unakumbuka radio ambao? Kuna radio ilikuwa ambao. Ilikuwa Philips ama Sanyo. Now it must go back to the phone. And so you realize that these are the market insights, and we either adjust to this or collapse. Ama SG atakuwa akisema viva. Ukienda kwa radio anakuuliza tutatoa wapi pesa? Because the money has gone, isn't it? Yes? Yes. Hata tukifunga, hatuwezi funga zote. Although sometimes I think we have too many. 250 radios, they are too many, isn't it? Hata tukifunga, hatuwezi funga zote, but zinakuja wakati wa campaign na wakati wa mahubiri, especially when we want to heal strategic people. You know that primary encounter, that I don't want to get to those because paywalls are still low. Because the question is, why do you want me to pay for what I can access for free? Why do you want me to pay to listen to your radio when I have everybody else giving the same content for free? And then revenue benchmarks. There isn't much benchmarking to do. You know, in the old days, you could get something experimented in Europe, then it's tried, then it's brought to African dollar, isn't it? Now we leapfrog. If we have a crisis of social media in Australia and the UK, it is the crisis in Kangemi at the same time. So we have no time to see what that's where the problem comes at once. So I think the easiest thing will be keep talking, but find a way. It is both regulatory to make sure that the money that is going to big tech comes back to sustain responsible journalism and make government commit a budget to the information ecosystem. All successful media houses, Bwana Temesi, I am addressing you in specific because kuna mahali utaitwa na mimi sitaitwa. It's public funded. Go out, the BBC, Deutsche Welle. In Sweden actually, the public broadcaster in Sweden finances other media houses. The KBC ya Sweden wako wanapata pesa wanasaidia the other radios around to run on TV. Is that true? Very? Yes, they do that and all that. So media as a business is a very small aspect of what it is. What we need is media and information as a public good. Watu wa katiba wanaamini hivyo, isn't it? Information is a public good. So we need budget commitments from the government. So professionalism is king, but quality is queen. Watu wa chess, do we stick to the queen? King, queen. Ideally is that it's good quality content, isn't it? That is what, and accessibility. You know, the model of radio or the model of media is a very inverted thing. You first of all develop content and make sure you get people to consume your content, isn't it? Now, when you go to the advertiser, you sell your listeners. In other places, you know, you develop a product and sell the product right away. In media, you develop a product, get people to subscribe or to be addicted to your product. Now the people who have gotten into your product are the people you convert into a product themselves and sell to the eventual advertiser. So it's a bit of slave trade. So ukiona unapenda Facebook sana, people make money from that on your behalf, isn't it? So the whole idea is that hata kama watu wasema they're likely to pay for digital content in future, people are likely to pay for that if the free version is not available, isn't it? The free version sasa zimekuja mkikaza Facebook. The people eventually is that if people pay for internet and they have a decent mobile phone, they have a lot of this stuff for free. Those are the challenges. So mobile first. Anything you develop, find a way that it reaches the mobile, isn't it? Focus on niche, isn't it? Kuna watu there are certain channels, radios and TVs that have their own guys, isn't it? Those who know Shakahola know that there was a TV channel that would recruit people from Keroka and they find a way to go to Kilifi and die before heaven judge. So before heaven judge. But the pastor is getting, I don't know, some little over it, isn't it? Adopt low payment. Let people pay things that look inconsequential, like a bob per day and all that. If you try to do bulky subscriptions, it doesn't work. And be resilient. The challenge we have in media is this. Because sometimes not very clean content sells, even ethical professional media is tempted to try to compete with the charlatans and comedians in town, isn't it? Because they have more eyeballs and all that. Because the more eyeballs you get, the more money you get. That is the challenge. That's what we should try to make sure that we sustain ethical media. Finally, I want you to reflect about how monetization in media works. I will take the case of either YouTube, Twitter or Facebook. If I want to put an advert on Facebook, you pay Facebook to put an advert there, isn't it? If you do not want to see my advert that I put on Facebook, you pay Facebook so that they don't show you my advert, isn't it? so the owners of the platform wametukalia. Reflect about that complex nature. To put it there, someone pays it. To avoid consuming that content, you pay again, isn't it? Chairman, welcome to the remarks. Asanteni sana.
Recognizing everyone present, Katiba, UNESCO Commission, Internews, Fatima, our colleagues from the board who have attended, Tabitha Mutemi, Temesi Mukani, colleagues from Complaints Commission Zawe Musau and Nasra, Secretary General KUJ Eric Odur, President Keg Zubeida, my colleague, I had not seen him, he sat on the left, Dr. Abduba Ido, in the board also. Hope William Olojanak, I can never leave him behind, where is he? Yes. Today, and all protocols observed, if I have not seen you, I have not acknowledged you, I have acknowledged everyone. Today is a day that, as you sit here and listen, has a note of nostalgia. Nostalgia is from long ago. What we remember, how radio shaped you, and how we are trying to hold on to it despite the total runaway technology that has come into media space. When you listen to SG talking, he is remembering the old days when he used to line up ever ready. When I remember my colleague, something you may not know about me, my colleague Tabitha Mutemi was my classmate. She used to go to KBC. She was a young girl. It's a long time ago with me. We were in the same class. And while she's there, we would gather around the hostel radio to listen to her, because she's our colleague. What you may not know, another very good friend of mine I value is called Olo Janak. My first job in Migori, earning 3,000 bob, should tell you when that was. Olo Janak welcomed me, showed me the ropes, and where to go to which telephone booth to file a story to Nairobi. Very analog those days. And how to get stories and disseminate. When we relied on radio a lot those days. My nostalgia, like everybody has, is from a young age I was a serious football fan. And there was no TV. The only way was radio. And like CEO's radio in Akelewa Kitambaa, my old man's radio was older. It was a transistor. I'll never know what transistor meant. Married the mother of the listener. So, and they were all open, they were all switched on like this. There was nothing going around. You press something, and if you press the wrong one, it goes to BBC. And you have to return to the Kiswahili one. And once you get the Kiswahili one, I can still tell you the whole lineup of Harambee Stars of those days. Not like now, where you watch it from the palm of your hand, and when Arsenal is drawing 1-1 at midnight, you are still there. There's nothing to to miss. So, club today, we would like, despite what has come, despite where we are, to have radio remain, but to have radio not disrupted by the technology, but to be shaped and made more by the technology, so that we don't lose the new technologies. It is an honor to address you on World Radio Day 2026, and the theme, Radio and Artificial Intelligence. Artificial intelligence, whenever it's being mentioned now, hits you two ways. It can obliterate your job, and it's doing it a lot. Or you can step on it and go higher. You can step on it and make profit. Introduce more order than there is. This theme speaks directly to the policy and governance questions confronting the media industry as technology change accelerates, particularly the responsibility of regulators to ensure innovation advances the public interest while safeguarding democratic values. Because AI will either give you that or take it away. And you don't own it. It's owned by everyone. And they don't ask you for permission for what they throw at you. They put it there, and it's upon you to know what to do with it. So as a regulator, it also finds you there. And most of the challenges it's posing have never been seen before. So we are just having to grow with it. Radio remains the most trusted and widely accessed medium in Kenya. Fatima said it's trusted. Reaching over 90% of the population, as I've seen on this report, and serving as a critical channel for information. As her mom used to listen to Mustasari every day. She trusts it. Public dialogue and cultural expression. It's certainly its centrality to our democratic life, especially in rural and underserved communities, demands policy frameworks that protect its editorial independence while ensuring accountability, professionalism, and adherence to ethical standards. Hapo at ethical, in Kiswahili you say hapo kwa ethical, is a junction, because that's what will generate a lot of debate. And so how do you deal with it? As a regulator, you have to think while chasing it. From a governance perspective, AI represents a structural shift in how media content is produced. Everybody has become a journalist at night, by day, from wherever they are, using AI. They don't have to write what they are giving you. Distributed and consumed. This shift requires regulators and policymakers to move beyond reactive regulation. Because if you are reactive, it will overtake you. And adopt forward-looking approaches that anticipate risk. Risk is very high. Address emerging ethical concerns and create enabling environments for responsible and transparent innovation within the media sector. It's giving you, as a regulator, it's giving you a job whether you like it or not, and you cannot sit there. And it's coming from all directions, more than you have ever known. As a Media Council of Kenya, we recognize that policy must strike a careful balance. Innovation is essential for the sustainability and competitiveness of the media industry, particularly for radio broadcasters navigating audience fragmentation and digital disruption. However, this innovation must be guided by clear ethical standards that safeguard accuracy, editorial responsibility, human oversight, and public interest. In my first closing, I'll say this. I might have 5. International normative frameworks, including UNESCO's recommendation on the ethics and artificial intelligence, provide valuable guidance in this regard. These principles emphasize transparency, accountability, human agency, and respect for human rights, values that align closely with Kenya's constitutional order, particularly the guarantees of freedom of expression, access to information, and the long-standing tradition of media self-regulation. You know, Kenya, especially at the Media Council of Kenya, that's what we stand with, self-regulation. So despite being guided, a lot will still be left to your discretion. The self-regulation model of the Media Council can now not chase you in every corner where artificial intelligence is concerned. You'll have to follow a lot of your own guidance. Learn by yourself. If you open many sites these days, they are teaching you how to deal with AI, how to make AI your partner, how to profit from it, how to monetize, knowing that it can also demonetize you, as we are seeing in Kenya. Not in Kenya, just the whole world. Digital disruption is demonetizing the space rather than monetizing it. And with those few remarks, like our SG said, we say, Viva World Radio Day. Asanteni sana.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you for telling us, hello, Janaka, alikuonyesha mahali kulikuwa simu ya kupiga file story. But when you told me the story alone, you told me kuna mahali hello, Janaka alikuonyesha na hujasataja hapa, ni sawa tu. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the PS, we have Temesi Mukani. The PS was on his way here, but ameitwa mbio akakimbia kwenda airport. He's landing where he was called, you know now it works. So he sent Bwana Temesi Mukani, the Secretary Information, to come and give his remarks. Bwana Temesi, karibu sana. Makofi kwake. By the way, don't worry, there is tea and lunch thereafter. Kwa hivyo hata nguvu ikiisha utarudisha. Karibu sana.
Asante sana, David. Thank you very much. World Happy Radio Day. Because you guys are looking so gloomy, eh? So that one. Happy World Radio Day, good people. I'm glad to see you and to reconnect with good old friends of mine, because I have been around also, so I have very many friends in this room. So, as David has told you, my boss was on his way here, and then he was told, you know, it's start season, eh? Kila mtu achunge mkate yake. So it is us, the desk officers, who can be ordered around. For them, wanaambiwa, ndege ya jeshi iko tayari, tunaelekea. So, as is protocol in government, I will first read my PSS speech and then say a few things as a member of Humusalaba Radio Salams Club. Nakumbuka sisi ndio tulikuwa tunatuma salam. So, this is the speech by Mr. Stephen Isaboke, who is the Principal Secretary for Broadcasting and Telecommunications. So, first of all, let me recognize Chairman, Board of the Council of Media Council, Bwana Maina, our CEO, David, Secretary General, Bwana Eric Odwor, and congratulations on your election, and everyone else within the room. Good morning. It is a distinct honor to address this distinguished gathering as we mark World Radio Day 2026 under the theme Radio and Artificial Intelligence. AI is a tool, not a voice. In an age of rapid digital disruption, radio remains resilient, adapting to new technologies while staying rooted in public service, community connection, and national identity. The government of Kenya regards radio as an essential public interest infrastructure anchored in our constitution. It plays a critical role in civic education, disaster response, peace building, and national cohesion, consistently providing timely, life-saving information. Today, radio reaches over 30 million Kenyans, representing nearly 8 in every 10 adults, making it the most widely accessed medium in the country. It transcends geographical, economic, and social barriers, reaching urban centers and remote communities in languages people know and trust. In doing so, it remains a powerful instrument of inclusion within Kenya's expanding digital economy. Under the digital superhighway and creative economy pillar of the Better Plan, we as government are investing in a transmission infrastructure, spectrum efficiency, and digital systems that strengthen the broadcasting ecosystem. At the same time, we recognize radio as a major employer and enabler of livelihoods, supporting journalists, presenters, producers, technicians, advertisers, musicians, and content creators, many of whom are young people. As we look to the future, artificial intelligence is reshaping broadcasting generally, from audience analytics and content scheduling to translation and transcription. AI presents an opportunity to deepen inclusion, speech-to-text services, local language translation, and adaptive content that expands access for persons with disabilities and marginalized communities, which aligns fully with our constitutional principles of equity, universal access to information. As we embrace AI in the sector, we must remember that trust is the cornerstone of broadcasting. AI in broadcasting should therefore be a tool, not a voice. This is a position that is advanced in the Kenya National Artificial Intelligence Strategy 2024 to 2030, which emphasizes that AI must enhance productivity and inclusion while remaining firmly anchored in human oversight, ethical standards, and public interest values. As I conclude, allow me to congratulate the Kenyan media fraternity, led by the Media Council of Kenya, for the opportunity to host the 2026 Pan-African Media Summit and Media Excellence Awards in Mombasa this May. It is my pleasure to officially launch the countdown to this signature event. Finally, as we commemorate World Radio Day 2026, we commit to a future where radio remains vibrant, innovative, trusted, and fully integrated into Kenya's digital transformation while staying true to its public service mandate. As a ministry, we remain committed to expanding radio broadcasts to reach all of Kenya's unserved and underserved regions. In this regard, we continue to work through the state broadcaster Kenya Broadcasting Corporation and partners as demonstrated by the recent revival of NOSIM FM. Our ultimate goal is to develop a robust broadcasting ecosystem that strengthens democracy, drives the creative economy, and leaves no Kenyan behind. Thank you all, and once again, happy World Radio Day 2026. I have done my official bit. Now let me say a few things as the desk officer and as a member of the Salams Club. And also just reflect on this nostalgia that is radio. You know, I grew up in a region that is of high radio consumption. We are Mulembe Nation because of greetings. Mulembe Mia, Mulembe Swa. You see it, eh? We greet. Even saying sana sana in my place is, you respond by saying sana sana. It's a greeting. So we are very nostalgic about radio. We have a very close connection with radio. But let me say a couple of things. My fondest memories of radio is a program that used to come every Thursday at 10 p.m. called Radio Theatre by a gentleman called Nzau Kalulu. May God rest his soul in eternal peace. Not Nzau Muzau. No, this Nzau of nowadays, ni mutu ya gazeti. Then there used to be, strange enough, all my favorite shows used to come very late in the night. There's something called Salamu za Majeshi with Jeff Mwangemi. We used to always stay late, but still made it to class anyway. And so my love for radio dates back to that era. But I want to say two other things before I sit down. One is that I know David and all the stakeholders, the biggest question we have in the sector is about media sustainability. But even as we discuss media sustainability this May during the Pan-African Summit, I want us to spare a special place for radio. And this is where I want to say it. I think radio is the most resilient mass media that we are left with. When devolution began, we didn't tell anyone to devolve media, but radio devolved itself. I think Victor is fond of telling us that there are so many homegrown radio stations across all the 47 counties except 2 counties. Yeah? So it tells you how radio has been able to navigate all these transitions, including, I'm very certain that radio will survive even this transition with AI and everything else. Number 2, you look at the media architecture or the media landscape in the country. Actually, some media houses, the big ones, have lived off radio. And without even naming names, there are stations that have completely, or media houses that have lived off radio, telling you that, when everyone else was doing everything else, those ones that are invested in radio in advance have been able to survive. So let's study this medium called radio and see how best it can help us navigate some of these spaces that we have, we are going through. Lastly, Victor tells us, I can't see Victor in the room. Victor tells us we are about 350 radio stations from one, when radio was baba na mama na nusu ya kuonana. So we have grown that rapidly. And, as we are here, we are now entering what you call a radio season. Radio and our politics, they are tied together. If you analyze radio ownership in the country, you realize all our big players in the political system own a radio station. 1 or 2, some own even more. So there's a very close connection between our democracy and radio. So that's also another area that we need to look at and see how best we can leverage this interest in radio as a medium of communication. And so you will see a lot of radio become very active for the next 17 or so months, and it will become the medium of choice for politics this season. So as a ministry, we are alive to some of the issues that has been raised here in terms of monetizing content by media houses. And generally we have a conversation with big tech on how best, because even before content creation became a buzzword, the earliest content creators were on radio and the mainstream. So content creation is not new. The only thing is that the models of content creation have changed, and as government we have a responsibility to make sure that everybody benefits from the works that they put in. So as I conclude, I want to once again thank you everyone, the stakeholders in the radio sector, for the investment and the commitment that you have continued to invest in this sector. and to wish you all a happy World Radio Day 2026. Asanteni sana.
Not much is left except to reaffirm that this year we have the 14th Annual Media Excellence Awards and the Pan-African Media Summit in Mombasa from kutoka tarehe ngapi Christian? Ideally watu wanaenda Mombasa kutoka tarehe 12 na tutatoka Mombasa after 17th. Na in case kama tumeenda na simu yetu imezimika, don't worry, we will call you. For the journalists and media houses, please continue filing your stories. Please continue for the awards. This time we are awarding journalists and media houses. And you are all invited. If you land in Mombasa, we will pay for the food and drink. Vile utafika huko, kama unataka kuenda, look for Christine. She knows how people will go there. So I wish you all the best. Bwana Mukani, now, unless there is any objection, Chairman PS, can we declare the opening session done now so that people can proceed for tea? Asanteni sana and thanks for coming. But we have more after this. Thanks very much. Please continue the clap.